All right, here's George. I'm very glad you won that fight, Matt, but I'm not impressed by your performance, and I look forward to fight you in the near future.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and there are a lot of issues with the comic book industry right now, and if you try to tackle them all at once, you would feel like you were overwhelmed under a mountain of problems. You should always try to tackle problems one bite at a time. And here to talk with me about some of the issues or some of the ways I would help fix the comic industry today is my good friend from Fantastic Comics, Yul Carter. How you doing?
I'm wonderful. I can't wait to hear this. So,
all right, yeah, you haven't heard any of these. This is all this is a shoot, baby. All right, so these are the 5 things I think that we could do today. They might not be easy, but they would be effective in growing the comic book industry and make things better. My number one thing that I would do, and I'm not going to say returnability. I'm sorry, Yul. I know that's your number one issue.
That's mine, yeah, but whatever. Let's pass.
This is from a consumer perspective. My number one issue, the thing that they should do today, they should lower the average comic book price from $4 a comic book down to $3 a comic book at least. Now, it would be very difficult to do this. The whole system is made to as far as payouts, as far as distribution, how much they sell. It's all based on like a $4 comic book model. Of course, you do have exceptions, but I do think they need to lower the cover price, whether it takes 6 months, 18 months. They got to get the prices down.
I agree. I felt for a while, and maybe it's just because of the location I had been in, and it's expensive rent, that if you lowered the comic book, I wouldn't be making as much money. So there was always that concern when I'm going into that kind of thing. But the monthly comic books they are really expensive. And when you look at the books and then they get collected, these comic books get collected in trade paperbacks or hardcovers, it's almost the same price as if you would have got them off the shelf anyway. If it's going from hardcover to softcover, sometimes it's less. And that kind of burns your butt as a consumer. I don't disagree. I hate it. Image has a really wonderful first graphic novel or trade paperback priced at $10 usually. And usually Image comics are $4 or $5 each. So if that's a 5 or 6 issue story and one $10 book, you paid $30 monthly for that. And that's horrible.
For new readers, if they come into a comic shop and they want to get a new comic series and they want to try it out, I do think the $4 to $5 price tag is a barrier to entry for people, because what if they don't even like it? That's not a sample price. It needs to be like $2.50, $3. And I think that a lot more people will be willing to try new stuff, especially if you're a comic reader. Do you really want to go in and invest on a new series anyway? Because if I buy the first book, I want to get the whole story at least. I'm committing myself to like $30 here.
Yeah. Maybe I don't want to take any concepts away from you. I don't know what you're going to shoot at us, so I won't go too deep into like the storytelling aspect of it. Again, the price is just so ridiculous. This is what I was going to say. If you paid $5 for that first issue, and it was at least one complete story, and you had an idea where the rest was going to go, you could drop it or be very happy to keep going on. I think the thing is if you pay $5 and you still have to pay tax on that, that anytime you have to pay more than $5 for a comic book is frustrating. And, then you're going to have your annual, and you're going to have your special 12th issue and your special 25th issue, or a cardstock cover variant that's another $1 on top of that. You could be looking at a $10 price tag for some books. It's ridiculous.
You get a Marvel, you get the Empire tie-in, or DC, you got your Dark Knight's Metal tie-in.
And what happens is if you're paying $4 or $5 for a comic book, and then you get that annual or that mini series event that's $7.99, it almost doesn't even seem like it's really that much more expensive. And I know that's what they hope you think, but it's not. It's the worst. These prices that they come up with are ridiculous.
I agree. So that's my first issue. They got to lower prices. This is the second thing I would do if I were king for a day in the comic book industry. I would hire professional social media teams. and they would run my Marvel account, they would run my DC account, because they don't really do anything interesting on any of them. And not only that, not everybody is a Brian Everett Hill. Not everybody is a Sean Gordon Murphy. Not everybody is a Scott Snyder. Not everybody can have a good, positive social media presence with their own personality and own words. When you got somebody like a Dan Slott that comes off, he can't stop talking about politics. If you have somebody that comes off surly like Bill Sienkiewicz, you know, some of these people that can't really handle a professional social media account, just don't advertise Marvel or DC on your personal one. We're going to have a guy that's going to come and run it for you, and they're going to advertise your books for you. They're going to tell people what you want. If they come back with questions, maybe we'll consult you, and we'll get a good professional answer out, because there needs to be better presence on social media. That is a way a lot of people get information nowadays, and Marvel, DC, Image, a lot of comic book companies are screwing the pooch big time.
Yeah, I have my personal Fantastic Comics Twitter account where I try not to say anything controversial at all. And then, you know, my Yule Carter account, and it's like, you know, maybe I'll say I don't like something, or, you know, use a naughty word or something like that. But yeah, these there's some okay accounts I've seen with people that can at times mix their politics and then consistently talk about pop culture stuff. But usually if you're into, you know, the outside comic book stuff, it's kind of like, you know, CB Cebulski's always talking about food, and then, you know, you're saying, oh, well, if we hire these social media people, I would hope that these social media people are only going to focus on comic books when they're doing it, though, because I could see a lot more CB Cebulski type posts, you know. Or what about the Marvel? Don't they have like a video team, and they're always talking about cooking and stuff like that? And yeah, if it's strictly comic book
YouTube
related,
and social media, you got to have a better YouTube presence as well, because they don't hype up their stuff right at all.
No, they don't talk about their comic books hardly. I mean, every once in a while they'll have a creator on, but those shows are dorky too. Nobody
wants
don't
to
like
hear
those.
shills talk about comic books. They want to hear real critics talk about comic books so that are discerning whether or not it's good or not. Not everything can be great.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of people that are out there on YouTube, or, you know, different podcasts that are out there that have a large following. You could have them come on, and, well, again, maybe that's just Marvel not wanting to give any any credence to anybody else. If it's not Kevin Smith, you know, DC and Kevin Smith or something, they might not want to, you know, have Wes on.
Well, certainly not me, but there's other people that actually have some clout in the industry that people look to for recommendations that could actually help them out. And maybe if they went on there and talked about the book, they could point out what was wrong with it. Then the creator could talk about why he made that choice, and maybe you could understand it a little bit more. Yeah,
definitely. Or at least one awesome fan that gets chosen out of a hat, you know, something like that. Someone that knows, I don't want to talk about, you know, these other issues. I just want to know what Jeff Johns was thinking when he did the Green Lantern or something like that. Yeah. You know, or Doomsday Clock. Can you explain that to me, Jeff? You know, that kind of stuff.
Yep, I'm with you. Okay, so first off, lower prices, professional social media teams. This is my third thing that I would do if I could make things happen in the comic book industry. There would be less comics, period, and certainly less events. Big crossover events, DC and Marvel, you only get one every 2 years. If you want to do an annual X-Men event, it's going to be contained in like 2 months, 6 issues maximum, and we're going to do less events. They're going to be spaced out. This one comic a week release thing that Marvel's doing. No, get that out the door. We need more information for retailers and stuff like that. But events would feel special again, and comics would feel special again. You don't need to release 120 new comics in a month, or even 100 new comics in a month if you're Marvel. It should be down below 80 at a minimum. You probably more like 50 or 60.
Yeah, I think less comics would be a really good thing. Marvel and DC often will have like summits for like X-Men. Hey, we're gonna have our X-Men summit or our Avengers summit, and DC would do that for like Superman and Batman and stuff like that. But if they had less comics coming out, then they wouldn't necessarily need to have a summit for one character. They could do it for an entire company, and they could actually chart out what the next 5 or 10 years are going to be. Back when Bendis was on Avengers, it was kind of that way. You know, you knew it was so easy to flow through all their Civil War and Secret Invasion and House of X or M, whatever, House of M. And it was like, you know, there was a nice little flow. It did feel like there was still a lot of events going on, but they were paced perfectly, at least during that time. And now you're seeing one event, and as it's ending, there's another event coming on. And then don't forget, Spider-Man has to have an event this year also. And it's just crazy. And then you have DC, and then even companies like Lionforge had one. So, I mean, we love event comics. I mean, people that read superhero love them, you know, but it can be too much. And then you tie-ins and crossovers and all that other stuff. It's just, if you feel like you need to, if you had less titles, you wouldn't have to worry about all that stuff. I agree.
Well, plus you can tell that they aren't planning these current events out very much because none of them feel really cohesive. They don't really flow into them. They don't feel big when they happen because you can tell it's all last-second planning, and that's why the events are kind of watered down, not only because there's too many of them, because they aren't well thought out, they aren't set up very well, and they aren't making big changes coming out the back end either. They're really just story arcs with event titles on them. And
yeah, Marvel always seemed to be better at having an event occur and affect the rest of the universe than DC actually did. And DC's always trying to like catch up with them. But Marvel, like you said, they have so much stuff. It feels like nothing's going to actually be happening as a result of this event that I'm reading, because it's going to get changed almost immediately. We talked about on another video about new or Uncanny Avengers. I forget, Wanda and Pietro are no longer Magneto's son and daughter because of that storyline. And you know, it's like, well, is that the thing now? Is it not? Now that they have the company, you know, it's just things can change so quick. And it's just like, it's really weird how they do that.
I agree. Definitely need less comics, less events. My number 4 thing that I would do, and this one, I think it's another kind of marketing thing. I think that comic publishers, especially Marvel, bring groups of readers into conflict with each other by trying to promote stuff to people that don't want to read the book anyway. They need to have diverse marketing strategies. When you have your Gotham High come out, it should not be being marketed in your Batman book, even though it's a Batman character. That YA graphic novel is not for Batman readers. Runaways, when they bring Rainbow Rowell on to do Runaways, they shouldn't release those in floppies. They should release those in graphic novels in a Barnes & Noble and stuff. And they certainly shouldn't be advertising it in Avengers, because that book, that material is not meant for readers of Avengers. They need to have diverse marketing strategies. This one-size-fits-all readers is completely bogus. It creates conflict, and it makes parts of the fandom resent each other because they don't want to have to talk to each other.
Yeah. Let me see. All right. So I don't know if I totally agree with the advertising, but if you're a completist, or, you know, you might want to, you know, that might be one of those things where, you know, that's a reason. Plus you want to let these people that are reading the YA stuff know that, oh, hey, you know, you might be able to go to a comic store and get this character as an adult now or something like that. And kind of, you know, oh, well, maybe I want to get my kid into these comics. Maybe this will be the way to do it. So that's, you know, that's probably my major sticking point. I agree with the whole one size fits all. The only thing is that Runaways was always kind of geared towards kids. It was part of Marvel's Tsunami line, which got ended after that tsunami hit in 2001 or something like that. Anyway, Runaways was always a kid's book, so I don't know. Marvel's smartly trying to tap into an audience And DC is also, and if comic stores weren't able to get those and they were just at Barnes and Noble, I know there'd be a lot of people screaming bloody murder on that.
Well, I wouldn't mean it that way. I wouldn't mean that you don't have access to it, but they need to be promoting it and marketing it to those specific demographics that are going to want that material more. Of course, you're going to want to have the Gotham High graphic novel. It's a Batman graphic novel. There are going to be people that are completionists for Batman, but they shouldn't be promoting it like it's a Batman comic book.
Yeah, you're right there.
Understand their demographics and target them specifically rather than this all-encompassing strategy. Well, we're going to put a press release out on CBR. We're going to put one on our official website. We're going to put an advertisement in a couple of our comic books and say that we've marketed the book. It doesn't work that way.
I mean, obviously, there's that whole Scholastic book program and the library programs, and that's what this thing is obviously gearing towards. And why else would you have, Rainbow Rowell, working on a book? So you're right. They should definitely deal with that a little bit more than, their normal comic book stuff. I don't know. DC's young adult was
digital,
Yeah, and maybe that's the way it should be, actually. You're right, because if you're trying to get the younger reader, and the younger reader cares more about, their iPad and not buying comic books and stuff like that, that might be like the thing that gets digital actually moving. So stuff like that, because webcomics are popular with younger readers, so I hear. I don't personally like the DC YA books. I like the DC superhero girl books.
I like the ones
Bumblebee and stuff.
That's the ones I read with my son.
Yeah, those are so well made. Teen Titans Go is so well made. Anytime they do that kind of stuff, but the young adult ones just don't sing to me at all. I think people that want those types of books want to read those types of books, Harry Potter and stuff like that. I'm not sure if they're as interested. I mean, there's already Lumberjanes out there for kids. There's Boom Kids, I should say, out there for kids. There's a lot of TV properties that are made into comic books that are out there. I don't know if these YA books are totally the way to go. And then Marvel. When they make kids books, it's often like they're talking down to kids, and I don't enjoy those at all. I mean, those are worse than the YA books. Personally.
All right, so we've covered my top 4 things I would change: lower prices, professional social media teams, less comics and events, and diverse marketing strategies that actually target the demographics that you think will want to read the book. And my last one is commit to long runs with great creative teams. Recently, we had Robert Venditti and Brian Hitch on Hawkman for 12 issues, and that felt like an enormous run. That should be a short run for a good creative duo like that. Joshua Williamson, obviously, he's finishing up his time on Flash, 4 years. That's a good sized run. They need to be putting some of their best creative pairings together. Keep them on these books. Obviously, you're going to have a fill-in artist here and there so they can go on vacation and stuff, but they need to have 2-3 year runs together and really do something with the characters.
I agree. The only time you'll see anybody on a book for any length of time will usually be if they're on a mini or maxi series. Otherwise, they'll be on 3 issues, off 3 issues, on 3 issues, and then off the title altogether. Obviously, there's some people that boot up series and that aren't going to keep going on, like Steve McNiven. He can only do a few issues. And obviously, Jim Chang, who went over to Justice League, and he kind of helped kick that off. And where's he been? So you're right. I agree. This whole rotating artists and only being on a year maximum definitely hurts. I feel we had such glory days in like the 70s and 80s, seeing especially a guy like Byrne. I mean, we always talk about John Byrne. Here he's like doing X-Men and Marvel Team Up, and then he's going on and doing, Alpha Flight and Fantastic Four, all during the same time, writing and drawing and all that stuff. And then he goes on and does Superman, and he's writing like a whole bunch of books for that, and he's putting out a whole bunch of material, and he does it for like 3 years straight. And you might see a writer obviously stick around for a while.
Yeah,
but
like
the artist,
Jason Aaron was on Thor for like 7 or 8 years. That is an impressive run.
Right, sure thing. But he had a rotating again. Assad Ribic starts off the book. You have no real, you don't have a desire or belief that he's going to stick around for any real length of time. He was there for 12 issues, though. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Spider-Man. Obviously, that's I think it's still bi-monthly or twice monthly.
Yeah.
You know, Ryan Otley is a great Spider-Man artist. Patrick Gleason is a great Spider-Man artist. Who's the third one that they have? Humberto Ramos.
Oh, well, yeah.
Really good Spider-Man artist. They also obviously have Mark Bagley. Commit to the bit with a couple of these artists and let them be like the two main artists on there and let them do 2 years with Nick Spencer's Spider-Man run if you want it to feel important.
It's really weird because it used to be if you got that Batman gig or you got that Spider-Man gig, you did not let that go. That Mark Bagley, they had to create the ultimate universe to get him off that book, basically. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm joking. There's some time in between, but still. And then he was on that for over 100 issues. He's like, I'm not stopping. I'm gonna hold on to this. He's doing the Charlton Heston there. And the same thing with DC. Jim Aparo. I mean, Kurt Swan on Superman. Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy that people don't want to stick around. It's probably what they're paying people, though, is really some of the reason. If you're not paying people or they're not getting good royalties, then they might not want to, there's greener pastures. And I've heard that DC
if you're the Batman artist or you're the Batman writer, you should be compensated like you're the superstar in the company. Like people should be fighting tooth and nail to get that spot and not give it up because it's so financially rewarding. Plus, your name's up there on the Batman title.
Yeah, Capullo had a good run on that though. Yeah, and he was superstar. They treated him like he was the big deal. Now you're seeing him on all the Dark Knight's Metal stuff and all that stuff, and he's like their big guy without a doubt, and they're treating him well.
Superstar.
And I mean, he did a little bit thing with Mark Miller, for Reborn, but I don't think he has any desire. He's being treated so well that he's going to stick around in DC for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, Yul. So those are the 5 things. If I were king for a day in the comic book industry, I would change immediately. I would lower prices. That one would be difficult because the market's kind of set up to support those prices. I would bring in professional social media teams to promote the work, use social media better because I think it's abysmal right now. Less comics, less events. Make the event spell special. Concentrate on the characters that matter most, and make sure that the stories are great. Diversify the marketing strategies as far as demographics, and commit to longer runs with great comic talent. Yul, thank you so much for joining me today and talking about this. And maybe next time we'll talk about the 5 things you would change from a retailer perspective.
Oh, no, it's all the things you just said. I totally agree.
Except for returnability.
Except for returnability. A little accountability, please.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Take it easy.